This is the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Thursday, November 18th. I'm Robert Blaszkiewicz, Assistant Managing Editor for the Times, here with Doug Ross, Editorial Page Editor for the Times, and Times columnist Mark Kiesling. We're going to be talking about the political issues of the day. First topic we wanted to tackle is the lawsuit that Lake County has filed over the tax levy freeze. This is a long time dispute that the county has had with the state. The county is the only county in the state without an income tax.
Right, and this is a 2007 state law that they're taking issue with that says that until or unless Lake County adopts this income tax, that it cannot have an increase in the amount of money in the levy is the amount of money that it can generate through property taxes. So, you know, as the cost of services goes up, that amount that they can collect is still capped. So, some of the communities are feeling a crunch, quite frankly,
right.
And it's putting a lot of pressure on them to change the way they do business. They laid off 12 police officers, for instance. So it's a pretty big deal.
And this is all part of the state's trying to push the county into passing an income tax, which the county has been loath to do.
Right.
It would be politically unpopular to pass an income tax.
And part of the problem is the county has resisted thus far because it sees the state's position as sort of blackmail. Either you pass this income tax, or we're not going to let you have any more money.
Right.
And you know, once you start telling adults that they are going to have to buckle under or suffer, they perceive that as blackmail, and that they don't like to be told what to do.
Well, and there's also the issue over how the money is distributed. You know, assuming let's say, for instance, just for the sake of argument, they put in a 1% income tax. So that would distribute the money, a lot of it, to the urban core, and a lot of the people in the south part of the county would say, well, that's rewarding bad behavior up there because their tax rates have been so high that they've punished the taxpayers, and now they'll be in essence subsidized by the people in the rest of the county.
Well, but you realize one of the reasons the tax rates are high in the northern part of the county is because the assessed valuation is low. I mean, I don't want to generalize, but generally speaking, a home in St. John is going to be worth more than a home in Gary. If you have the equivalent house, equivalent square footage, and that's why your tax rate is higher in Gary, because they've got to get more money out of that smaller house. So,
and it's a very complicated issue.
Yeah, it's extremely complicated.
But that's why they're taking it to the court. So
and
we'll see what happens.
As we all know, the courts decide wisely. So,
next topic we want to talk about was the East Chicago audit, which was had some interesting little details. Among them, a run for sliders, late night slider run.
Exactly.
Now I don't want to get too much into my column for tomorrow, but I did my column for tomorrow on the East Chicago audit, and I don't take so much offense to the late night slider run.
Yeah.
Let those of us among us who have not made a late night slider run cast the first stone.
Harold and Kumar to start with.
There you go.
Yeah.
They've even made movies about it. But there does seem to be some abuse in some of the discretionary spending in the petty cash fund out of the East Chicago police budget. So, in my mind, you've got to strike some type of balance. I mean, you can't be paying for people's baby showers out of it. Here at the Times, not to use us
or
as
a country music CD.
Or a country music CD. Well, that was now you're talking $11, but when you're talking hundreds of dollars for the baby shower, hundreds of dollars, and like I said, here at the Times or at most other private businesses, if you want to have a baby shower, you pass the hat, and you don't go to the to the powers that be and say we want the company to pay for a baby shower,
or the taxpayers in this case,
or the taxpayers in this case.
And there was another really severe problem in that back in the 2007 audit by the State Board of Accounts, a different police chief, but they still back then did not have everybody handling cash, licensed, essentially, insurance with some kind of bond or or some kind of an anti-theft insurance, which you hate to think of with a police department, that the employee might not be totally honest. But
Well, it's not necessarily theft. I think it's a misconception of what we can use this money for. The 2007 audit cited then Police Chief Angelo Machuca, who said he spent X amount of money on alcohol, and that was supposedly for a department-related function. He ended up having to pay the money back. Now we have the Christmas party, the East Chicago Christmas party, under the current chief, Gus Flores. Well, where do you strike the balance between that?
Well, and I still say, the bonding issue. If you don't have insurance coverage for the employees handling cash, you're opening yourself up to a lot of criticism. And for them to be criticized for that in 2007 and not corrected by 2010, what's going on here?
Well, we got a new administration, so we'll see kind of how this
Right.
develops and how this administration maybe changes the way they do business. The Statehouse had Organization Day this week. It's the House we have a new speaker since the Republicans took over the House. Brian Bosma replaced Pat Bauer as Speaker, and one of the more interesting things Bosma did was install a couple Democrats in some chairman positions.
Right, that was fascinating.
And we have some local people
right.
involved in that.
Chet Dobus, who of course was in the knockdown drag out fight with Pat Bauer, lost his leadership position earlier this year. Got one of those. It's a select committee on government reform or government reduction or whatever it's called. Yeah. And so Chet's the chairman of that. Well, that's the first time in 194 years that a Democrat has been chosen to, really, that any an opposition party, exactly, so the minority party.
But I think you hit on something important, is that Chet Dobus has been able to successfully, he's had quite a long career in the House, and one of the reasons he's had that career is he's been able to successfully negotiate between Republicans and Democrats, and has not made enemies on either side of the aisle. So he is seen as kind of a candidate who is acceptable to both parties.
Yeah, I should point out he's been in there for 40 years. The only other person who's been in there the same length of time, sworn in the same day, elected the same day, was Pat Bauer.
Interesting.
Now you talked about kind of how rare this move is. What do you think Brian Bosma's motivations were for doing that?
Well, I think Brian wants to get a lot of bipartisanship, and I think giving a chairmanship to a Democrat is a way to ensure that, and frankly, giving one to Dobus, who bucked the Democratic Party leadership, rewards Dobus.
Yeah, and I think it's just a way to say we want to get things done.
Right.
And certainly with the Republican majority, the last 2 years of the Daniels administration, I think they're looking to get some things done.
Oh, absolutely.
So, last topic we want to tackle this week was the Hammond mayoral race. Mark, you had some thoughts on that.
The Hammond mayoral race will be in 2011, be next year, and we've seen some interesting moves in the Hammond mayoral race. Incumbent Tom McDermott Jr. is going to run. There won't be any doubt about that. He is on the record as saying he expects to have some opposition from within his own party, and he expects some of the opposition to be put up by one of his by Sheriff Roy Dominguez, who has made no secret he and McDermott have butted heads on a number of different issues. So he'll have that kind of challenge in the primary. And then what will be interesting is to see who his Republican opponent will be in the general election. There's any number of possibilities. The strong Republican opponent last time was George Janik. He's a wild card this year because he's in his first year of serving as a Hammond School Board member. Hammond School Board is a nonpartisan board, and if he declares himself as a Republican, he's going to have to. There's a very substantial chance that he will be challenged as a member of the school board and may frankly have to give up his school board seat. Last time I talked to Janik, he thought he could positively contribute to the school board, and it didn't seem like he was willing to step away from that seat. you know, heaven knows that the Hammond school system could really use some, you know, some leadership and guidance. So he feels he can provide that. Now, whether he feels strongly enough about that to stay out of the mayor's race, I don't know. Or here's a question I was asking the mayor today: what if Janik runs as an independent, doesn't declare it a Democratic or Republican? And the mayor, you know, was kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say he was caught off guard, but he said, well, that's an interesting question. And we went down that avenue a little bit, but that gets into my Sunday column, so I'd kind of like you to read that, so I don't want to get too far into that.
Well, and we should point out that McDermott had a really tough fight in the last time he ran for office.
He did have a very tough fight.
It was a very close race.
And now, again, in my conversation with him today, he admitted that he did virtually nothing in the 2007 race, and he said that was a mistake, and he learned from that, and he's going to start a door-to-door campaign in February. He said he'll take a break to coach his kids softball, or I'm sorry, baseball, but he's going, you know, once that's over, you know, he's going to start in February, do a little baseball, and then come right back at it again after baseball. So he's learned his lesson. He's got the money. He's got the horses. He's got a team in place. He's going to be tough to beat.
Well, it'll be worth keeping an eye on the Hammond mayoral race along with all the others. Municipal election year next year, so a lot of those races will start taking shape early next year in advance of the May primary, where a lot of them will be determined.
Right.
So we'll keep you up to date with all that, along with all the political developments, if you keep watching future editions of the Political Roundtable. And for breaking news, be sure to log on to nwi.com and pick up the Times. Thank you.